Thanks for joining us for CVM News at noon. It's a Thursday, October 23. I'm Amoy Harriet. Up first this afternoon, the tropical storm watch, which has been in effect for Jamaica, has been upgraded to a warning. The island is now on a hurricane watch as tropical storm Melissa moves slowly across the Caribbean Sea. This means tropical storm conditions pose a possible threat to Jamaica within 36 hours, and hurricane conditions are likely to pose a threat within 48 hours. The Met Service says at 4 a.m. the center of tropical storm Melissa was located about 353 kilometers or 219 miles southeast of Morant Point, Jamaica, or about 390 kilometers or 240 miles southeast of the capital, Kingston. Melissa is moving very slowly towards the west near 6 kilometers per hour or 3 miles per hour. And of course, we'll get more on the system from our meteorologist Javoy Sawyers a little later in the newscast. In the meantime, the government and its agencies called a press briefing at the office of the Prime Minister this morning to update the country on preparation efforts. Speaking at the briefing, Manager for Weather Services at the Met Office, Rohan Brown, outlined the system's current position, movement, and the potential impacts for Jamaica over the coming days.
Tropical storm Melissa was located near latitude 15.5 degrees north, 74.9 degrees west, or about 215 miles southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. The system is moving slowly towards the northeast near 7 kilometers per hour, and maximum sustained winds are up to 75 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Now, we have gone from a tropical storm watch to a warning because tropical storm conditions are likely within 36 hours within the Jamaica area. And we have also gone to a hurricane watch because hurricane conditions of 119 kilometers or more in terms of wind speed are likely over Jamaica over the next 48 hours. Now, little strength in forecast is expected over the next day or so. But what is interesting, we just had a discussion with the National Hurricane Center, and coming out of that is that Melissa could become a major hurricane sitting south of Jamaica on the weekend. And that, of course, is something that we have to pay special attention to.
Now, the Weather Service Manager also outlined the potential impact of the storm.
We're expecting significant rainfall amounts that could cause localized flooding and landslides, especially over low-lying and flood-prone areas due to Melissa, and of course the antecedent conditions of the heavy rainfalls over the last couple of weeks, which would allow the soils to be very wet or saturated at most. And strong gusty winds are likely in terms of tropical storm winds over Jamaica Friday into the weekend, and as such we have gone for the tropical storm warning, and the hurricane conditions are likely on Saturday, and therefore we have gone for a hurricane watch as well. Marine interest should expect widespread showers and thunderstorms accompanied by tropical storm force winds today and continuing into the weekend. Winds reaching hurricane strength are likely on Saturday, particularly over southern and eastern offshore areas. And of course, we're advising that all marine operators, including fishers on the quays and banks, should have by now be in port, and we're urging them to complete their necessary safety precautions without delay.
Now, Member of Parliament for Western Westmoreland, Ian Hales, is lashing out at the government for what he describes as poor planning and misplaced priorities. Mr. Hales claims that the administration has drained the national budget on election spending, leaving no funds to support constituencies with disaster preparedness. Kevin Black tells us more.
Out in the pouring rain on Wednesday, Western Westmoreland Member of Parliament Ian Hales.
Let me say to the people of Western Westmoreland that the Met Office have just informed us that by Friday, Melissa will be a hurricane. That's number one.
The returning MP was leading drain cleaning efforts in his constituency. But according to Mr. Hales, the work is being done without government support, claiming the country's resources were used up in the financing of the recent general election.
I didn't get $1 from government to clean one drain. I'm here with somebody, the chairman for the Little London Division, Mr. Ewing. He has volunteered his backhoe to help the citizens of the Little London Division. That's what we have to be dealing with now. Volunteerism, because the government have no money to give anybody. All of the money done in the election.
The MP, who also serves as Vice President of the People's National Party, says he's outraged by the government's handling of funds and what he describes as disregard for the needs of Jamaicans facing potential disaster. He says regardless of political affiliation, all Jamaicans should receive the same level of governmental support.
The Jamaican people not into this foolishness anymore. When the flood rain come or the hurricane come, it don't go to greenhouse or it go to orange house. It goes to every Jamaican house. And I would have liked to see the government place the PNP and the JLP in one room and we come up with one solution in terms of dealing with the flood rain and hurricane that is on its way. The hurricane don't pick PNP house or JLP house, it pick everybody house. And yesterday for me I was disappointed in Parliament because I had to leave the Parliament of the land and come down and tell every citizen in Western Westmoreland that I have no money for drain cleaning, I have no money for bushing, and I have no money to fix the road, to repair the road. And it is sad and it is disappointing.
He also made an appeal to his constituents in flood-prone areas.
For the people in the flood-prone areas, let me just appeal to you. When the authorities tell you to move, I'm appealing to each and every one of you in McNeiland and other areas across the constituency. I'm appealing to you. Move when they tell you to move. It doesn't make any sense for us to lose one life. When they say move, let we move. Make your necessary preparation. We have to be safe. We have to ensure that for our fisher folk that you're safe, and we're going to get through this together as one people. Not as PNP and JLP, as one Jamaica.
The MP is calling on the government to act swiftly and ensure that all constituencies receive the necessary support. Kevin Black, CVM News.
A stern warning this afternoon from the Minister of Telecommunications, Darrell Vaz, to the Jamaica Public Service, JPS, regarding the disposal of debris from the cutting of trees to clear its lines. The minister has advised the power company to ensure those contracted to carry out work on its behalf stay clear of using the gullies as dumps. Gullies all across the island are a major concern at this time and have been so for years, becoming channels for major flooding during the hurricane season.
I know that you are doing tree line clearing, and I know I have reported already that some of your contractors, who I'm sure are being paid to remove the debris, are finding the easiest way, which is the gullies across Jamaica, which are only going to make matters worse for us. So I'm asking you, please, sir, as a matter of duty today, to make sure that those areas are inspected and satisfactory signed off by JPS and not rely on those contractors who have a habit of finding the shortest route to make the best and the most money. Zero tolerance.
And it's time now for a break. When we come back, we'll talk to JPS and NWC. Please stay with us. Welcome back to CVM News at noon. We're continuing our coverage of Tropical Storm Melissa. Joining us now is Media and Public Relations Manager at the Jamaica Public Service Company, Audrey Williams. Welcome, Ms. Williams. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
All right. How ready is the JPS for the impact of Melissa?
Well, we have been doing all that is necessary to be ready to respond to any kind of eventualities. We've done a few things differently this year than in previous years. So one of the things that for us is pretty outstanding in terms of a difference in keeping with best industry practices, we have proactively brought on board teams from overseas before the storm hits so that when we do have whatever the result is, of the weather system, we are able to immediately respond with an increased team. So last night we had teams coming in from St. Vincent, this morning from St. Lucia. Tomorrow we're having a contingent from the USA. So that is a major difference for us this time around. And we do anticipate that that will show out in what ensues afterwards. As is normal, we have our simulations throughout the year and so on. So we have been doing that. We have also been strengthening what we call our structural integrity. So that speaks to our poles, our lines. We've been doing a lot of equipment upgrades. We have absolutely escalated our vegetation management. So we feel like we're in a much better position. However, one concern that we do have is the fact that we have been having days of rain prior to this system, which means that the soil is more waterlogged than it would have normally been under blue skies condition. When you have waterlogged soils and then you have a system that's coming, dumping many centimeters of water on that, then you are setting up yourself for a situation where you can have landslides. With landslides come poles and equipment washing down hillsides, or potentially other material, trees, boulders, you name it, coming into contact with poles, lines, etc., which can also cause them to break, resulting in outages. So that's an area that we're particularly concerned about, and we are watching, we are monitoring to see how best we can respond if and when such things do happen. But that is one of our major concerns. Also, our teams, our own local teams, are already on standby. We have typically, when we have a situation like this, we know that there are areas that tend to be marooned, some areas in the east, and not just in the east, in the west and other areas as well. You have a certain amount of marooning that can take place. And so what we do is we stage our resources, our poles and so on in those areas ahead of the impact, along with the teams, so that we don't have that access issue. We can't completely bar against access issues, because when you do have landslides and the rest of it, you don't have road access. Sometimes communities, you simply cannot reach them. But we have a great relationship with our partners, NWA, and so we work together to, as quickly as possible, get those roads cleared so that we can get into the communities and do the necessary work. But we've been doing a lot of prep for this system.
So, Ms. Williams, JPS CEO Hugh Grant at the press briefing this morning said, and I'm going to quote exactly what he said, the lights will go out. Now, Jamaicans want to know, what's the situation with JPS regarding weather events like these, where there's always a disconnection or power outage?
All righty. So I'm glad you used the word disconnection and power outage, because they're both different. We don't deliberately turn off the lights. There are occasions where we may have to, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But the grid, and this is not unique to Jamaica now, the grid is designed to protect itself. So if you do have contact with the grid, whether it's flying zinc or tree branches or whatever it might be, whenever there is contact, the grid can shut down, whether partially or, segments of the community, in order to protect itself and in order to protect life and property. Now, there are instances where we deliberately turn the light off, and that can be for one of two reasons. It can either be a safety issue, or it can, again, be a matter of keeping the grid itself safe, not exposing it to unusually high winds and so on, because then the damage from that is harder to maintain, it's harder to fix than if you had shut it down originally, let the system pass, and you bring it back up. I'm going to give you an example that was explained to me, and it made it very clear as to how it can be a safety issue for the public if you leave it on beyond the point where it is safe to do so. A particular customer had an issue, and this was, I'm not sure if it was Ivan, but it was a few systems back. A line broke. I don't know if it was a tree branch fell into or whatever, but a line broke and the line was still live. It was whipping around in her yard. It was still live. But at the same time, she was having flooding. So water is also coming in and she needs to evacuate. How does she evacuate when she has a live line in her yard with water rising? So you can see right there that the answer would be to disconnect service so that she can safely exit the premises.
Okay.
So that's just one example of when it comes down to brass tacks and you have to select the best choice for the customer. It can be that the best choice is to turn off the power.
Okay,
But we
so
watch and we monitor to see what is necessary where, and we do right by our people.
So in events like those where the power is disconnected or yeah, disconnected, right? What happens afterwards? Because remember last year in St. Elizabeth, there were areas that were severely affected by Hurricane Beryl. And in some cases, for months, there were even protests because of the months-long delay in returning electricity. What's being done differently this time around?
So this time around, because we have the additional teams, we expect to already be in place to manage the after effects of the storm. It was unfortunate that St. Elizabeth took as long as it did. It was really roughly 2 months. So Beryl hit July 3rd, and we had the last of our customers in by about the 28th of August. But I should point out, though, the majority of our customers island-wide were restored within the first week, 2 weeks after Beryl. So it was really just the hardest hit areas that were out for an extended period. But notwithstanding, we certainly have that in mind. And so our teams will be out there and will be able, I do believe, to handle in a much better way. Just by sheer number of boots on the ground, it's going to make a difference.
And as we wrap up, Ms. Williams, I remember coming out of that same scenario. A lot of the residents down there were complaining that their electricity was out for a while, and they were still seeing large, high bills. I mean, Mr. Grant spoke earlier about smart meters, but I remember reading some of the comments while he was presenting where persons were saying even with smart meters, they're still seeing high bills. What exactly is this smart meter in 30 seconds, and how exactly does this guarantee that even while we're seeing power outages, we're not still high, we're seeing high bills?
All right, so the high bill is easy to explain why a person would be out of power and still get a bill. What a lot of people didn't realize is that what they had was an estimated bill and not an actual reading. So the way the system is set up is if you have been getting bills all along at a certain level, let's say at 100 kilowatt hours for argument's sake, and then suddenly there is a zero consumption for a prolonged period or very, very low consumption for a prolonged period, the first thought will be, this is exceptional. Has something gone wrong with the meter? Let's give the customer an estimate and go and check and see if the meter is working.
Okay.
If it is working, then we will adjust, and therefore they will get whatever the balance is that they would have overpaid. They'll get it back.
Okay.
So what a lot of people were seeing was an estimated bill. It was not an actual reading. What smart meters do is allow us remote capabilities, so we can read the meter without actually physically going there. The fact that they got high bills when they didn't have any power supply is not at all a reflection on the capability of the smart meter. It was simply that it was an estimated bill in response to the fact that they had not had a reading and the consumption was inconsistent with the normal pattern.
All right, got it. Thank you so much. That is Media and Public Relations Manager at the JPS, Miss Audrey Williams. Thanks again, Miss Williams. We go now to St. Thomas, where residents in Yallahs are taking no chances. Preparations are well underway as the community braces for possible heavy rains and strong winds. Our reporter Omari Wilson is on the ground in Yallahs and tells us more. Omari?
Yallahs, St. Thomas, and as you can see behind me, residents are doing their last-minute shopping and the last-minute preparations ahead of Tropical Storm Melissa. I spoke with one resident here, and this is what she had to say.
I'm ensuring that I have adequate food supplies, so you know, the tin stuff, the bread, etc. And I also have a young baby, so I'm ensuring that I have, you know, any emergency medical supplies that I can get over the counter just in case of an emergency.
All right, joining us now is Delano Williams from the NWC, who's here to give us an update on what's happening. Mr. Williams, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. Good afternoon to you and to your viewers.
All right, so first of all, where is the NWC in terms of preparations for Tropical Storm Melissa?
All right, so we have effectively mobilized our emergency response teams. This means that all of our teams have been situated or in the mobilization mode to get to the locations that we feel will best allow us to launch. By launching, it means that wherever we have any potential disruptions after the passage of the hurricane system, then it gives us that strategic advantage. In advance of the arrival of the system, we've done a number of things as well. One of those is to maximize or to make sure that as many of our systems as possible are running to provide water supply to all of our customers. You would have seen the relaxation of the restrictions applicable for the Mona systems earlier this week. Customers are benefiting from that additional supply to allow them to increase their storage or to put some amount of storage in place.
But Mr. Williams,
we've also
so those restrictions that you say are lifted. I mean, at least 2 persons I heard this morning in the corporate area saying that they did not have any water this morning.
Thank you for that. So I was going to just segue to a disruption we had overnight for the Mona network, Mona area, beg your pardon, which is served by our Hope system. That was resolved earlier, and water supply is now being restored to that community. We take, which is a reality of any other day outside of a storm period, reports, beg your pardon, of disruptions. You will still have pipelines breaking. You may still have electrical disruptions, whether internally or externally. And we move as quickly as we can to rectify those. So what a hurricane or a tropical storm really brings is an additional an increased instances of these disruptions, but you're not necessarily going to negate all of them on a regular day, which is really what we're having now. My counterpart from the JPSCO also spoke to a reality which we are seeing, which is the ongoing rainfall is causing a high level of saturation with the ground, meaning a lot of water is already on the ground, and this could cause some issues with high levels of turbidity. It could also cause earth movements where the pipes run on elevated areas, meaning on slopes, and that could cause dislocation of the pipe. So we're asking our customers to be prepared, even as we are prepared to provide the quickest response.
So, Mr. Williams, the Mona Reservoir and the Hermitage Dam are at 97% capacity, according to information that we've received here. Now, with this heavy rainfall that's expected, what exactly are measures being put in place by NWC to ensure that the water that's coming into these areas don't, practically overflow and add to the flooding that we're expecting from the system alone?
Well, the systems don't flood the nearby communities. What we generally do is to receive all that they can take as storage systems. So the Mona is actually full as of yesterday. The Constant Spring has been full for more than a week or two. And that allows us to lock those systems in and to take the river flows. So we will ideally keep those storage facilities locked in for the coming weeks and months until they become necessary. The only time we will revert to those storages during this hurricane season is if the river flows become so muddy or so filled with debris that we can no longer safely take the water in without compromising water quality or causing damage to our infrastructure. And if I may segue to just illustrate the point, a lot of our river sources, which is about 2/3 of our total sources. So we have 400 sources, 2/3 of those are rivers or springs. There will come a time when we'll have to make that assessment a few hours before the system gets here. How many of them can safely operate without damage occurring to the plant or the pump itself? All right. If there is too much mud, if there is too much debris, then we do something called a diversion, where we channel the water back into the river source that it's coming from. All right. And that is where you may have unforeseen disruptions for customers. But again, it's better to do that temporarily than to try to keep pumping water, damage the equipment, and then you have a longer restoration time, which further displaces the customers. So we make these decisions on a case-by-case basis. Where we see they are more prone, we will put the notices out, or immediately if the instance occurs, we notify our customers and ask them to take their storage, make use of it until we are able to safely navigate to the locations.
All right, thank you so much. That is Acting Corporate Public Relations Manager at the National Water Commission, Delano Williams. Thanks so much again, Mr. Williams. Let's head to a break. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to CVM News at Noon. Some good news for passengers traveling in and out of the island from Kingston as well as Montego Bay. The Minister of Transport, Darrell Vaz, says the airports remain open.
Both airports will expedite reopening once safety is confirmed, with updates shared through official bulletins, social media, and coordination with airlines and government partners. So the question that is being asked out there, is there a possibility of the airports being closed? So I made sure to clarify that with the airports authority. The minute that a hurricane warning, not a watch, a warning has been issued, it is likely that the airports will close within 24 hours. It is not a must that both of them will be closed at the same time. It's all dependent on the tracking of the storm or the hurricane and the elements in terms of the locations of the two airports, which are obviously on the sea. So for right now, airports remain open, and the only time that we will move to close the airports will be if the Met Office issues a hurricane warning. If that was to be predicted or projected, that would probably be sometime tomorrow into Saturday. So sometime between tomorrow evening and Saturday day. But best thing is to monitor, and the hurricane warning is the trigger.
All right, let's go now to meteorologist Javoy Sawyers, who will give us further updates on tracking Tropical Storm Melissa. Welcome, Mr. Sawyers.
Right, thank you.
So we're seeing a rainfall or moderate levels of rainfall in some sections of the island. When will Jamaica start feeling the brunt of Melissa?
The brunt of Melissa, as it pertains to the core of the system itself, if the track holds, expecting that to be affecting the island starting in the east around Saturday into Sunday, early Sunday morning. What we're having now is just instability caused by the presence of the system in the Caribbean itself. So we're having periods of showers and thunderstorms, particularly in the afternoons as daytime heating, heats up the land and the air rises, and we have those thunderstorms. Expecting this to progressively continue, getting worse tomorrow into the weekend.
And there are projections that Melissa could strengthen into a hurricane. How possible is this still at this time?
At this time, it is very possible. It is almost 85%, well, 100% certain that the system will develop into a hurricane because the ingredients are there. Once the wind shear lessens somewhat, we already have the thunderstorms building close to the center now, and that is a key indication of a system that is possible to strengthen.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of reports about, the path of Melissa changing. Is it possible in any way, and I'm going out on a limb here, that there's a possibility that, let's say 24 hours from now, the system might move away from Jamaica in any way?
There are a few models that are leaning to a continuous northward trend east of the island into Hispaniola. However, that is increasingly less likely as most of the models are trending towards that western turn south of the island, and even more so closer to the island south coast than it were trending yesterday.
And if the storm stays offshore but close, what size of wind field or rain bands might Jamaica experience?
So it's twofold. If the system took the track it had yesterday and remained further south, it would be over open water, less interaction with the island itself, and that would cause the system to develop into a strong major hurricane. The fact that the models are indicating now that it may track closer to the island, it may lessen the intensification. Nonetheless, we're still expecting a major hurricane south of the island. It may not be category 4 on the higher end, but a category 3 nonetheless. And at this point, the category of hurricane doesn't really matter, because if we're having a system moving at 2 miles per hour, still over open water, the center over open water. We're going to have the cord system across the island for days and days. So I would urge persons not to look at the category system itself because at this point, like someone said, category slow is worse than a category 3 or 4.
All right, thank you so much. That is meteorologist Javoy Sawyers giving us the latest on what's happening in relation to Tropical Storm Melissa.
Thank you.
Fishermen in Hopewell, Hanover say they are preparing for Melissa. The fisherfolk told CVM News that during the last hurricane, they suffered major losses to boats, nets and fishing pots. So this time around, they're insisting that they're moving quickly to remove their fishing equipment to prevent any damage.
From early Wednesday morning, fishermen along the Hopewell Fishing Beach in Hanover were seen hauling their boats ashore and securing their equipment. They told CVM News that during Hurricane Beryl, they suffered major losses with boats, nets, and fishing pots either destroyed or washed away.
Secure everything we have, because if you not secure, we'll lose all our value. And we have to start all over again. Because if you start and come, every fish pot mash up at sea. So we're not going to have nothing left. So we have to prepare again. We have to think about prepare all over. So we have to go move out the sea right now, everything and get everything in order. I mean, say, when the storm starts, we kind of can't sleep, we could better and sleep sounder.
Now they're moving swiftly to remove fishing pots from the sea, docking their vessels and tying down nets and canoes to reduce the risk of damage.
So we have to be on the alert right now. Right now we're trying to get the net, as you can see, get the net up out the water, put the net away from the sea. And we have the over here where we pull up the boats. So we have to get the things prepared right now. Right now the biggest boat is right there.
In the meantime, we put the issue to Acting Director General of the Office of the Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, Richard Thompson.
Fisheries Authority of Jamaica has given their advisory already to fisherfolk for them to make their way to the mainland. They have been doing extensive work in ensuring that through the Fishers Cooperative they provide fisherfolk with radios. They advise them as to the channel that they can communicate on, and so they normally talk to them while they're at sea for them to make their way in.
Carla Ramdeen, CVM News.
Still out west with Tropical Storm Melissa on the horizon, long-standing concerns about flooding in Lucy, Hanover have resurfaced. Residents and business owners continue to warn about a large buildup of bamboo debris clogging the Riley River, a problem they say has been repeatedly ignored. Many fear the obstruction could lead to dangerous flooding. Our reporter Amari Wilson has this CVM News follow-up.
Disgruntled residents and business operators in the Keep Left area of Lucy, Hanover say they are now deeply concerned that the bamboo pileup in the Riley River still hasn't been cleared. Residents told CVM News that just a week ago, Member of Parliament Heather Miller Bennett, along with representatives from the National Works Agency, toured the area and gave a commitment to have the drains and bamboo pileup cleared. However, to date, they still have not seen any work in progress. The Riley River in Lucy is known to overflow its banks whenever there is heavy rainfall, and with a storm now approaching Jamaica, residents are convinced they will be severely affected and concerned about their safety.
Not safe at all, because it always floods. Even Sunday gone, the water came down, and the road, it was running on the road. So I know that as soon as a hard rainfall, it will flood.
Well, me dey fret. Me not tell no lie, me dey fret, because me know say, when it come now, the whole place will flood out. Because sometimes in the year, they can't get to home, the water reach me all up there, so. So we want it to clean, man. It stay bad, man. Up a bridge stay bad. And this little one here want clean out too. Yeah, stay bad.
Residents in the Keep Left district say the effects of heavy rain are often immediate and devastating. The bamboo pileup only worsens the situation, forcing water to spill over into the community much faster.
The river come over. It run through here, so. They run through here, so, because the bamboo, they want to clean the drain, them stay bad. Well, want to clean out, you know. Anytime they clean out, no water no run on the road, but when they not clean out,
the water take the road.
But the question lingers, what do residents and business operators do in times like these?
You have to make sure that all of your fridge and some of the appliances, you lift them off of the ground and you plug them up because water might come in the building and damage your things there.
Omari Wilson for CVM News.
Now, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says all public hospitals across the island are in emergency mode. Dr. Tufton, who was speaking at this morning's press briefing, says the ministry is on high alert as Tropical Storm Melissa nears the island. He notes that based on current projections, the system could disrupt health services and interrupt the supply chain for critical medication. In the meantime, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining says its disaster preparedness protocols have been activated as the country braces for Melissa. Portfolio Minister Floyd Green says emergency response teams have been mobilized to protect farmers and fishers and reduce potential losses. The Rural Agricultural Development Authority officers have been deployed to help secure crops, livestock and infrastructure, while fisheries officers are ensuring boats are safely docked and evacuation plans are in place. The ministry is working with the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, and other agencies to coordinate response efforts.
We've activated our Disaster Risk Management Committee to coordinate a swift and organized response with the impending tropical storm Melissa. Our technical teams are on the ground ensuring that our farmers and fishers have the necessary support to prepare and protect their livelihoods. We're asking all our stakeholders to act swiftly and responsibly. The ministry stands ready to support and will continue to monitor the situation.
And it's time for a break, but stay with us more when we return. CVM News at Noon. We're now joined by the CEO of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, Mr. Robert Hill. And before we go to Mr. Hill, let's hear what's happening down by Clarendon, where our correspondent Andre Pasley is camping out in Rocky Point. Now, Rocky Point is one of those flood-prone communities in Clarendon, along with Mitchelltown and Portland Cottage. Andre, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Amoy, thank you.
What are you seeing happening on the ground down there in Rocky Point?
As it is right now, Amoy, it's very windy here in Rocky Point, Clarendon. Spoke with some fishermen this morning. They say this is the calm before the storm. I saw them drawing in their boats and tying up and preparing for what's to come later on.
In terms of preparation, what do you see happening with the residents and those in the area?
Well, when we passed through the community this morning, we saw some drain cleaning and some residents on roofs knocking down some zinc. So I guess they are in full preparation mode.
All right, thank you so much. That's Andre Pasley, our correspondent down there in Clarendon. And of course, Andre will be tracking what's happening throughout the course of the day and will provide later updates in our newscast at 7 o'clock. Let's head now to Mr. Hill, CEO of the KSAMC. Mr. Hill, thank you so much for joining us. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, there we go. So what level of preparations is going on right now within the KSAMC?
Well, all our engineers are out there checking the critical drains, the critical areas, particularly those that are prone to flooding. We also are working with the ODPEM and the NWA, looking at the areas of sensitivity in the rural parts of St. Andrew that are obviously prone to landslides and so on. We also are in preparation mode with our Emergency Operations Center, led by our disaster coordinator, Ms. Terry Forrester, and she's also supported by our Inspector of Poor, Ms. Donaghy Brady, because we also have one of the largest, if not the largest, homeless population in the country, the largest of which resides in the confines of Kingston itself. And so we are also making preparations to care for the homeless. We have activated our emergency response teams. We have a schedule of persons led by our engineering team to various zones right across the municipality. And both the mayor and myself will be going back on the road to check with those of our engineers and our other personnel as well to see where we are with the final preparations just before the weekend comes up.
And what about shelters? Have you guys already identified some and have they been inspected and are ready to open if needed?
All our shelters, we have 107 approved shelters right across Kingston and St. Andrew. We have all of them with trained shelter managers who have been equipped. We are preparing the necessary items for transport to those respective shelters, and they will be opened based on the information that will be coming from ODPEM. I use this opportunity to remind persons that when attending on the shelters, if needs be, not to bring the heavy household items with them. It's not for cooking, it's for temporary housing and safe shelter from the storm activities. So just ensure that you bring light tin foods, crackers, etc. Don't forget your medication, especially those who are vulnerable to lifestyle diseases. Let's not forget our elderly and our children as well. But we are ready with all our shelters, and our trained shelter managers are on standby to welcome and receive anyone who needs that service.
So for those persons who may not have the tin items to carry to the shelters, are there enough supplies like food, water, bedding for these persons if they need to evacuate their homes?
We have enough water. We are still in the procurement processes, emergency procurement, to release some of the necessary tin items, common tin items, I should say, that are provided at shelters during this time. So we are on way to deal with that.
Okay, and has KSAMC identified any specific communities or neighborhoods that are most at risk, and are extra resources being, put in place for these areas?
Sure, Amoy. The normal areas of the low-lying parts of Kingston, the waterfront, the Seaview Gardens, where the Sandy Gully empties out, and we're looking at that as well. parts of Raytown, Franklin Town, parts of Doheny Park, for example, and also New Haven is one of those critical areas that we also look at. One also look at Central Avenue. We have done some work on Central Avenue to alleviate the flooding in residential apartments there. So we're working on that as well ahead of time. And we are also concerned, let's say with Tavistock, for example, we're working with NAA on that as well. So we have our feelers out, we have our experts out from the City Engineers Department, and we're doing the best we can to ensure that we are properly prepared and we are in a state of readiness and responsiveness should the need arise.
All right, thank you so much. That is Robert Hill, CEO of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, giving us an update on what's happening in the capital. The Jamaica Fire Brigade, too, says it's prepared to respond to any emergency amid the ongoing threat of Tropical Storm Melissa. Our reporter Giselle Mills tells us more.
Firefighters respond to emergencies beyond fire. With Tropical Storm Melissa approaching Jamaica, the Fire Brigade is prepared for the possible dangers posed by the pending severe weather condition, heading or direction.
The Jamaica Fire Brigade is on high alert and we're ready. As of yesterday, we would have ensured that all our units are filled with fuel. All our generators are also filled, so our stations are ready. We're ensuring that the men and women are ready. Our rescue teams are up and ready to respond. We ensure that our dinghies are inflated and are ready to respond. We are now in a watch and see mode. We are hoping for the best, but whatever comes our way, we'll be ready to handle it.
Deputy Commissioner Sean Martin underscores the importance of people not crossing flooded roadways and gullies. He reminds it's dangerous and life is often put at risk or lost if swept away. He also shared other safety precautions.
Just in case any power lines are down, you need to be very careful how you go outside because water, electricity can really, it increases in voltage in water and it's more deadly.
While speaking at the media launch for Fire and Life Safety Awareness Week 2025, Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Stuart Beckford, says knowing the number of your local fire station is important because the 110 telephone number is a third party and not the Jamaica Fire Brigade that answers. He says as a result, they have no control over how the responses are dispatched.
I have been saying this and I'm not sure if persons are taking us seriously, but you need to know the number to your nearest fire station. Put that number on speed dial, just like how you have your friends and family and whoever else on speed dial. Put the fire station number in your phone and put it on speed dial. You pass the station probably every day to and from work or wherever you are going. Just stop going to the station, ask the firefighters there for the number if it's not painted on the building and put that in your phone. That can make the difference between us getting there in a timely manner.
Giselle Mills reporting for CVM News.
And that's it for CVM News at noon. Join us again for CVM News at 7, where we'll have the latest on what's happening with tropical